I appreciate you thinking that I'm that young, but do you have a birthday tradition? Like, what should I do today besides this?
I don't have a birthday tradition. No, the older I get, the less I tend to celebrate them,
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Draft Digest. The sickest NFL draft and scouting podcast. It's gonna be sick.
See, isn't that quite the intro, Coach?
Yeah, that was sick. Sure.
Hi, guys. I'm Emily Van Buskirk. John Vogel's out today, so I will be carrying the Sick Podcast Draft Digest by myself, but welcome to this week's episode. I'm joined today by one of my favorite head coaches, Navy head coach Brian Newberry. Welcome to the Sick Podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Good to see you.
I know I usually make it out to Media Day where I get to see everybody, but when they moved the AAC to Charlotte, it's really hard for me. I know it's probably better for you. It's easier, but for me coming from California, it's really hard to get out there. I really liked it in Texas, so I didn't get to make it out, but how did Media Day go?
It was good. It's always kind of my first Media Day, my first year as a head coach, we played that week 0. And so
That's right.
Yeah, I was in Dallas, hopped on a plane. I got here about 5 minutes before our first team meeting. The fall camp started, and so it was a little less stressful this year, but I enjoy it. They do a really nice job. Commissioner is really sharp, and it's a first-class event, and we got a ton of really, really good coaches and good people, in this conference, and it's good to see some of the other players from around the league, and our guys always enjoy doing it.
That's probably my favorite part is watching the guys interact with these other guys, because they're usually facing off across each other on a field, but here they get to kind of bond over the sport that they love and show their personalities a little bit. And it's kind of fun to watch that.
Yeah, it is. It's, I think they went hit baseballs one night when they were there. And,
yeah.
No, it's fun. And just, like I said, great coaches in the league, several new coaches that I think really highly of, and just a great conference.
So you mentioned, when you first took over, and we have week 0. We're in week 0. Thank God. I could not do without. It's the best birthday gift I could ever have is college football coming back this week. So I'm very glad for that. But we have the Ireland game. And, that was a game that Navy played Notre Dame in. And now this year we have Iowa State, Kansas State. Do you have, and I believe that was your first year, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a kind of a
great first game.
Yeah, your very first game. You're in another country. You're in a completely different time zone. First of all, what was that experience like? And then I'm curious what advice, if you had to give advice to the other coaches, that you would offer up in prepping for a game like that or on game day.
Yeah, well, obviously it was different for me because it was my first time as a head coach in the opener. You traveling overseas, just the logistics of everything, and making sure. My advice is make sure that that's on point. Talk to some people that have done that trip and how they managed it and things they would have done differently, maybe, to make sure your kids, their legs are where they need to be, their heads are where they need to be. And and then to go and play, a really good Notre Dame football team, and their first one was tough. At that point, I was drinking out of the fire hose a little bit, first go at it. So I was just staying above water. But it was a great experience, and it was a first-class deal over there, and I wish we'd have played a little bit better and been more competitive, but a great experience for our players for sure.
They had a lot of Navy fans and branches of actual military that were over there. Was that kind of cool to see that representation in this other country?
Yeah, I was amazed at how well our fans traveled and people from all over the world really that came to see that game. But I think it's awesome to play the game over there and to feature college football, and it was a great crowd and great environment, and everything was first class.
That was a fun one. I actually made it out for that game. I flew in the night before and got there like that morning. And I remember I brought my husband with me. He was not my husband yet, but he tagged along, and we were so excited to be there. And I was like, do you want to come to the game? I can get you a credential or a pass. He declined and ended up sleeping through the game in the hotel because the time change did not work for him. And I told him it was going to be rough, but that's the life. So
Well,
it was kind of
the way to do that trip, Emily, is you go out a week ahead of time, and
yeah.
do all the sightseeing and stuff and get used to the
Well,
time difference.
some of us are on a different kind of
Sure.
budget, so
Sure.
we flew in the day of, but we did manage to stay a couple
Mm-hmm.
days after and get to see Ireland, which was cool. But
Beautiful country.
it was great. And the golf there, I know we've talked about this before, but I work in golf, but the golf in Ireland is incredible. So you're not a big golfer, right?
I like to play. I don't have much time to play, and I'm not very good. So that combination.
Everybody says that golf is such a self-deprecating sport. Everybody says they're not good, but
Is.
I bet you're pretty decent.
Good way to describe it. It's a humbling sport for sure.
Okay, well, looking ahead to this year, you don't have a week 0 game, which is nice, but we are heading into the season the week after that. How has this, you're coming off an incredible year last year, a lot of talk, a lot of buzz, a lot of hype, 10-3, you beat Oklahoma in that bowl game. You have a lot of momentum. I know players and coaches like to say it's a reset, it's a new clean slate, but there's got to be some, movement forward off of that year and some excitement coming into this after that.
Yeah, I think certainly. I think you talk to your players. It's a new team, absolutely. Are the things that we can take away from last year and build on and really, prior to the last season, we had four losing seasons before that. So, I think there's a psychological component to kind of getting over that hump as much as anything else. And I think our kids, their mindset is in a little different place than it was, a year ago. A year ago, you were wishful. You felt like I liked our team a year ago at this point. I didn't know what to expect, but I liked who we were. I liked the work that our players put in. I liked the leadership, and I thought we did all the right things leading up to the season. And we talk a lot about, the byproducts of winning. How you do things, and I thought our kids did things the right way. I thought we were a team that deserved success. Doesn't mean you always get it right, but I thought we were that kind of a team, and I feel the same way about our guys now. The shift is a little bit kind of what their internal expectations and what maybe previously there's a limitation mindset that you have when you've had losing seasons a little bit, and I think we've moved past that. And so I think it's a team that feels like they can compete with anybody, on any given Saturday right now, and so that's great. But the expectation stuff, especially the external, is just noise. It's we try to drown out the bad noise and the good noise. It's kind of all the same to us, but you got to find a way to build off of what you did, and certainly there's great momentum, going into the off season. But the conversation we always have is, we got to keep our foot on the gas. We got to do things better than they've ever been done before, and how can we continue to evolve in all three phases and put our players in positions to be successful. And we've got a lot of continuity on our staff, which is great. We didn't lose a coach, didn't lose a support staff member in any of the football departments, which is unusual and really incredible. And so I'm excited about that piece of it. Obviously, I have a lot of returning production from last year's team, and so excited about that. But lost some really good players as well, some guys that we're going to have to replace. And I'm excited about some of the pieces that we're going to have to replace those guys. We're still a developmental program here, and so you got to pay your dues here. Most guys do. Even the best players that come through here started out on scout team. Played sparingly as a sophomore, and so we've got a lot of sophomores and juniors who have kind of been waiting their turn, lurking in the shadows and doing all the hard work, fighting through some adversity and those kind of things. So I'm excited about a lot of those guys that I think are going to be really good players for us.
Well, and not all noise is bad noise, because we're getting a lot of, great talk about quarterback Blake Horvath, which he had an incredible year, last year, and we're looking to build this year, being a senior, and you can only get better. We don't even know where his ceiling is, but he's so exciting to watch. And, I'm pushing, I don't have my sign up, but my Horvath for Heisman is a thing. And we're excited to see a guy like that, because not only is he a great player, he's a great individual. And he stands for a lot of the things that I think go missing from awards and tenants and their personal life and what they represent. So what has it been like to watch his development, and how excited are you for him this year?
Yeah. Heisman Horvath kind of rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
It rolls real nice.
Yeah. I like the sound of that. Well, a great young man. I think if you you watched last season and you were with us, and you understand some of the things that he fought through from an injury perspective or from a pain perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I think people don't realize just how tough he is. I don't know if I fully realized it during the season. And then you go and you watch a game like Oklahoma, his last game, fortunate to come out with a win. He missed 4 or 5 throws in that game, so as good as he was, as good of a season as he had, there's a lot of meat left on that bone. And I think been really impressed with the way he's attacked the off season, going back to January. And one thing we knew for sure is that we need to put some weight on him. He's been a guy that's been modified in the weight room on certain lifts, so it's a little bit harder to put weight on him, but he's put on almost 10 pounds. He feels good. He's healthy. And we got to keep him healthy. And he's continued to progress. Last year was really his first full year playing quarterback in a new system. So obviously didn't play as a freshman, broke his hand as a sophomore, as early on that season. And so I'm excited to see how much better that he can be this season. Obviously the second year in the system, second year with Coach Cronick. All the pieces around him, which a lot of people don't talk about, are some really, really good pieces from a skill perspective. You talk about guys like Brandon Chapman, Eli Heidenreich, Alice Teska, and several others that have really come along. It's exciting. But he's a phenomenal young man. As good of a player as he is, he's a better human being. And he's the same kind of goofy, unassuming guy that he was, when he was a freshman. Maybe a little more confidence now than he had back then. But young man that could walk into a room and talk to anybody. And modest, humble, engaging, calm, cool, collected, a really good leader. Just really can't say enough good things about that young man.
How do people know the military academies always as the triple, right? And I love it because, I'm a fullbacks fan. I love, run power often. It's great. But to have a guy like Horvath and be able to throw the ball and do all of these different dynamic things on offense, are people surprised when, I know last year when you guys started throwing more and he was doing what he was doing, there was a little bit of like, oh, this is something different. But do you find that people are still kind of like surprised by it, I guess?
I think people that have followed Navy football for a long, long time are surprised at how we've opened up the offense a little bit.
Yeah.
And really, to be honest, I was a little bit surprised just how effective of a passer that he was at times last year. And you're talking about a guy that, when we recruited him out of high school, he was an under center, option quarterback. Mm-hmm. And really, when he was a freshman, didn't throw the ball particularly well. It's something that he's had to really work on and develop. And you watch him mechanically, how quickly he gets the ball out, his accuracy, his ability to make the right reads is really impressive for a guy that was an option quarterback in high school. And really, I don't know if there's a better fit for what we do offensively than Blake and his skill set. His ability to go under center and operate the triple and read it, make the right decisions, and then to get in the gun and do some gun option stuff, as well as some of the RPO, some of the traditional stuff you see week to week. He's really a quarterback that could play in just about any system and be a good one. No doubt about that. But he's got a unique skill set. It's really a perfect marriage between him and Coach Cronick, and really what I wanted to do with this offense and how I wanted it to evolve. Still run the option, right? But it's a little sexier version of it. All the academies have been forced to evolve, right, because of the cut block rules and things like that. And so I knew we were going to have to change gear a little bit, but the ability to throw it when we need to and the ability to make people pay, when they're selling out to stop the run is something we have to be able to do. And the way we're built and structured right now allows us to take advantage of those type of things.
It's funny because I remember when I interviewed you when you first got the job and we did that whole story, you did talk about wanting to do things differently. And I think you did even use the word sexy. I think that is true. But watching this evolution of you saying that, and then this actually, because a lot of coaches say they want to do things differently, but it doesn't always pan out. And so I guess, how do you attribute your success in executing that different type of play? Aside from, your coordinators that you have how is it falling together that way?
Yeah. Well, I scour the country looking for an offensive coordinator, somebody that you think can carry out something similar to what you want it to look like, what your version of it is. And really, Coach Cronick was the perfect fit. You go back and you watch all the things that he's done throughout the years as a play caller, at a lot of different places, and most everywhere that he's been, he's done more with less. And he's an old wing T guy, but he's evolved throughout his career and done different things at different places based on his personnel, which is what really, really impressed me. His ability to adapt and change and put his players in a position to be successful based on who they were and what he had. And so he's got a really nice ability to do that. He's an excellent play caller. So the hiring of Drew, the emergence of Blake, really kind of a perfect intersect, and so can't say enough good things about those two guys, and just the offensive staff. We heard a new O-line coach who I think is phenomenal, young coach, and Jay Guillermo. DC Cole is our slot backs coach, a phenomenal coach. And so we got a really, really, really good staff. We got great young men, and they believe in what we're doing. Sometimes it takes having success to have that belief, but they were bought in from the get-go. But it was the third offensive coordinator, that Blake has had since he's been here, and so they believe in what we're doing. They believe in the coaches, and it's fun to watch it evolve. And Drew will tell you, we did some things last year he had never done offensively. One thing that was really important to me, but we didn't lose the under center triple option element. We have to be able to do that. It's an equalizer for us. It's hard to prepare for. So to be able to do that and sprinkle in all the other things that we're doing, I think, the X's and O's piece is important here at the academy. We got to do things to give our guys a chance, and we want to be unique and different and extremely difficult to prepare for. My goal when I was a defensive coordinator, I didn't want the offensive coordinator to sleep that week when they were playing us. And I really I think we need to be that way in all three phases of the game. And so I love what we're doing and love the direction it's going in. And now we've got a system in place, we can start to recruit specifically to that system. And that's going to take time to do that. But recruiting's gone really well the last couple of years. And I think changing the offense a little bit and making it, like I said earlier, a little sexier helps to recruiting, as well. Wide receiver would rather play in this offense than he would, old school under center triple option where you run the ball 95% of the time.
Right.
The same thing with skill players. So it helps us in recruiting as well.
You talk about the three phases. I think there's a fourth phase, and I have to give a shout out to your communications department, your SID, Scott Strasmore, incredible guy. I've worked with him a long time, and they really do well with Navy, athletics. They put out all this great information for people. They tell great stories about the players. And so I think a lot of people don't realize how much work these departments do with less resources sometimes. And I think Scott does a great job. So I had to shout him out.
Well, I'm glad you did, because he does. Him and Stacy, they do a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
And you're right. They probably don't have as many people working in that department as a lot of other schools do. And they work coaches' hours, maybe even worse. They do a phenomenal job. They take a ton of pride in what they do. And he's one of the best in the business.
He really is. And I always tell him I read all of his game no matter what. So do not stop putting him out. And he'd be getting emails from me at all hours. So he definitely works long hours, but so shout out Scott. But one of the other questions, I know we always talk about this, but I feel like it has to be touched on, especially for our listeners, is, we're in this new era of college sports with NIL and transfer portal and all that stuff, but it doesn't necessarily apply to you guys. You guys, it's kind of business as usual. And so how has that been navigating that as a service academy, or it doesn't even register or affect you guys? So you just keep going about your business?
Yeah, it's been interesting. Didn't know what to really expect when all these changes started to happen. How it was going to affect us, and I think what we're finding is, or what we found is that it's helping us in a lot of ways. Number one, in recruiting, high school players aren't getting as many opportunities as they used to, and so. It's allowed us to recruit a little higher caliber player, coming out of high school. Allows us to be a lot more specific about what we're looking for and what we actually take. You got the cultural piece. We're a unicorn in college football right now, as far as, we're still truly a developmental program. We don't deal in the portal. We're not going to go in the portal and try to out recruit you when we get you here. We're not going to cut ties with you because you're not a very good player.
Right.
And so I think parents certainly see the value in that, right? But I think the student athletes are starting to see the value in that as well. And, being at the Naval Academy and getting a degree from the Naval Academy and serving your country, it sets you up for the rest of your life. And so while we don't offer NIL on the front end, you certainly have it on the back end, something that pays off, not just for the next 4 years, but for the rest of your life. And so, and I think kids see that and value that. And so there's a lot of things that are helping us. And I think college football is a little bit of a mess right now, to be honest. And, I have certain opinions about that, but, in the transfer portal, it goes two ways, right? We can lose guys in the portal, and we can't replace them.
Right.
But we haven't. We didn't lose a single player in the portal that played a snap for us last year, which is a great indicator to me of we're recruiting the right type of players.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than just football. When you come to school here, it's important for our guys to understand. And then I think, it speaks to how we're doing things in our program, and it speaks to how close these guys are. And so from a cultural standpoint, we have some continuity and some consistency. And, to be connected and to have the kind of trust that we want to have here, those things take time. And they're forged through going through hard things, which these guys do here together. And so there's a special bond at this place. It truly is a brotherhood. And, it's fun to coach a group of guys that everything's about the team and everything's about winning games. It's not about the individual and how much money am I going to make? Can I leverage something in the portal? And so not having to deal with that as a head coach is refreshing, and just reiterates what a special place that it is, and what a great job that I have to coach these kind of young men and to not have to deal with some of the things that, frankly, other coaches are having to deal with right now. It's tough.
Do you hear stories like that from other coach friends of yours about what they have to deal with? And you're just like, that's
absolutely,
crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard on coaches. I mean, I've got friends and coaching at every level, and they're frustrated. They're a little burned out. It never ends for those guys, and it's hard. It's hard. You get into coaching because you value relationships and you want to pour in and develop young men.
Yeah,
it's hard to do that nowadays. It's not impossible. I'm not saying that by any stretch, but it's a lot more difficult to do that.
It is. And then now we have the expanded playoff. I'd be curious to know your thoughts on, the playoff stuff is starting. It's interesting how it affects Army Navy, because we have the Army Navy game, and that's always been the standalone kind of at the end. But then now the playoff stuff is starting so soon after that. Mm-hmm. Do you have any thoughts on the expanded playoff? Your thoughts on the ideal situation, or you're just like, no?
You know what? I don't think about it a whole lot. To be perfectly honest with you, maybe I should think about it more than that. All I want to know is that if we take care of business here, we have a path to get there. Right. Not as interested as much in how it happens. Right? I just want to know that if the Naval Academy wins the American Conference, right, we should have a path to the playoff. Period. Yeah. And as long as we have that, as long as we keep the Army Navy game, the integrity of that game, I'm good.
That was going to be my next question, because with this like creeping creature of the playoff, it keeps creeping on either end, closer in December, further in January. And I'm curious if you feel like that might affect Army Navy ever. Like, are we possibly going to see that date move or change? Or
it certainly could, right? I don't know how it won't affect it. Which is it's one of the great things about college football is that game being played when it's played, and just the young men that it features and the feature on our military. And it'd be a shame, if we lost that slot, and that great, and not that we're going to lose the tradition, but the timing of it and the audience. And I think it's important for everybody to see, these young men on the battlefield and the way they do things and the way they represent our country and the schools. So it'd be a shame if we didn't. I know that.
It is definitely, if you're a college football fan, a bucket list thing to get to. I would say in all of sports, it's one of the best games I've ever attended. So do you guys prepare a little bit differently? And this is a silly question, but for games like Air Force, games like Army, where the commander's trophy is in play, those are a little bit feistier, right? They have to be.
Yeah. We don't prepare in any different way for those games. Obviously those games, if we're being perfectly honest, they mean a little bit more, and like you said, they're a little feistier. And winning the CIC here is a big deal. And that's our number one goal in our program. And it's, something we think about all year round.
Yeah.
I mean, every Sunday that I come in here, the Army and the Air Force games are going to be broken down, regardless of who the next opponent is. So, and maybe some certain things that we do a little differently, in regards to those games. But the approach to playing that game, to me, shouldn't be any different. You don't want to make it more than it is. It's just a game, and when we go into that game, I want our guys to be loose. I want them to be confident. I want them to go have fun, play without a fear of failure, and the pressure and the anxiety of that game can get to your players if you're not careful. And so you don't have to get them ramped up for that game. Right? They're going to play hard.
Yeah.
You know how much it means to them. If anything, you've got to kind of calm them down,
pull them back. Yeah.
Pull them back. Right. And so it's always an interesting, the psychological approach, I guess, Emily, is what is maybe a little different going in that game. But as far as the way you plan it and all those kind of things, it's not any different.
And having Air Force at home this year is nice. And then I'm curious your opinion on the rotating Army-Navy game. I know in the past it had always been in Philly. Now we've been rotating it to different sites, which is kind of cool because it showcases different cities and different, people get to go to it. Do you like that it's in different places each year?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay.
And it's nice to be in Baltimore this year because it's relatively close by and that's convenient for us. But I think I don't mind moving it around. I think that's pretty neat, playing different venues and different parts of the country. And, I wouldn't mind it being played in, in the Southeast or out on the West Coast. It's
I would love a California game. What the heck?
Hard to travel with the brigade and the Corps cadets in order to do that.
But I've always wanted a California Army-Navy game. I don't know that we'll ever get it because of what you said. It's hard to travel that stuff, but I feel like it'd be really nice for the services, for the service people out here.
100%. Yeah, and the weather would probably be a lot nicer too, right?
It would, exactly, because every time we go to these games, it's like freezing. Yeah, that would be nice. We'll have to work on that. But okay, well, I think that's pretty much it. I really appreciate you taking the time and joining us. I'm supposed to give you a message from my co-host, John. As I told you, he served in the Army. He's still in Army Reserve now. That's what he does. And he's a great guy. I'm not going to say the exact message because I would never, but he said to tell you that you're with the wrong branch. And he said, go Army. I'm not going to say the second part of it, but he said, thank you for coming on. And he wanted me to give you that message.
Tell him thanks for having me and I appreciate you having me on. It's good to see you and happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you got it.
All right. Well, for John, who's not here, I'm Emily Van Buskirk. That was Navy head coach Brian Newberry. And that was another episode of the Draft Digest SICK podcast. We'll see you next time.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the SICK podcast Draft Digest on YouTube, X, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.